Item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Due to my schedule for the evening, I'd like to make a motion that we move old business A and B up to the top of the agenda so that we can discuss it before I have to leave the meeting.
I'll second that. Any discussion? So you want to move it to before new business or now?
Now, please, if possible.
Well, since I don't see anything, I think that anybody else is here to discuss, that would be okay.
I appreciate that, thank you.
So no other discussion. All those in favor of moving items A and B of old business to the agenda, top of the agenda? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so hold please while I rearrange. Okay. So item A, discuss the discussion of town meeting and set a new date and location. So we met last Wednesday, the 13th, at the old town hall to have a town meeting. You were both there. There was a fire marshal in the room, and the fire departments shut the door when we got to capacity of the room. The capacity of the room was not at that time stated in the building. It is now. We had, I don't know how many people. I've heard multiple reports or guesses. I didn't see the number of people. There were a significant number of people outside the old town hall. So we had really two options. Only one I thought was a viable option at that point, to conduct the meeting with the door closed to people outside or adjourn the meeting. And so I called the meeting to order and then promptly adjourned the meeting. As a result, we now need a new time and I would argue a new location based on the number of people that came out, and we already know we were over capacity that evening, so I would argue an ensuing town meeting would have us at the same capacity. So we worked to secure Hall School. They have lots of things going on, as you can imagine, and what we looked at is Monday, December 2nd is a potential date that we can use that facility. It would be free after 6 p.m. They would have to cancel some basketball practices, and then we could use the facility at that point. And the capacity of the building, of that room, of the gym, is more than enough to cover what we believe we would have. The fire marshal said 560 people.
So that's the date of our next board meeting?
Correct.
So would we
I would
reschedule that or just adjourn to that?
I would say we could either cancel that one and have a special meeting, or just cancel that one and move to our December 16th meeting. So some of the items you see on your agenda, we would have waited till our December meeting. Some of our approving some basic housekeeping meeting items we kind of moved up, anticipating that we would cancel our meeting and to have this town meeting. As you can imagine, it comes down to having a location, and with only one location with a capacity large enough, we're a little bit at the mercy.
Okay, I'm guessing there were probably around 200 people
I would say
at the old town hall the other night. This is obviously, we have a lot of interest and a lot of contention on a lot of these items on here. I think this was poorly planned in the beginning with all these items on one scheduling them all for one town meeting. I think we'd probably be there at 4 o'clock in the morning by the time we got through all these. And because there is such an interest and because so many people want to be involved here, I think it might be best if we moved everything to referendum, or at least the first 6 items to referendum. Item 7 being one that I have heard nobody argue with. It's the one about the software for the Board of Finance. And that is one of those, if we had a town meeting on that, there would be 5 people there, and it would last for 10 minutes and it would pass.
So you would want to move the most contentious items to the
The
referendum?
referendum, correct.
So in that case, that takes away any opportunity for people to have conversation about those contentious items. Because a referendum, you go in, you vote, you leave. There's no conversation, there's no opportunity for public discourse, there's no opportunity for interaction and between the, you
could
never ask questions.
You could schedule a public hearing.
So,
If you're gonna go so far as a public hearing, why would we not stay with the format which we had already planned?
Because you are going to have a hard time getting people in there, you're going to be there all night, and still there are going to be people who are going to have a hard time getting out there to vote. On a referendum, everybody should be able to get a vote in.
So this is the first time you've mentioned this, and the call's been out there, we actually all came into the room to have the discussion, and now that didn't happen, to no fault of our own.
This is the meeting.
Right, so with that, I actually have, since you're suggesting changing the call, as you are probably aware, there are many questions that have come up and many statements that have been made by people in the press and here in the town hall about the items. Since the meeting was adjourned and mentioning that you want to change the call now to move to all items to referendum. Speaking with the town attorney this afternoon, the first 3 items regarding the school building committee actually do not need to go to town meeting at all, and I would argue that they then don't need to be moved to referendum. The Board of Selectmen is the governing body and can establish a school building committee. We did that on October 7th. As a result, the Board of Selectmen ultimately has the authority to appoint members to that committee. We established the Wise Energy Committee and a flag committee, and we appointed members to that committee without going to town meeting for a vote. What was proposed to go to town meeting was in keeping with past practice. What we now know is that it is not in fact required in order for the Board of Selectmen to appoint people to a committee that we unanimously voted to form. So in the past, it may or may not have been a requirement. Again, these are past building committees, but we now, it may just have been overly cautious. We now know that it is not now required. If and when a project is proposed and comes out of that school building committee, there would be a requirement for both town meeting and referendum on multiple steps of any project that comes out of there. But at this point, we're just looking to get the committee started. We established a committee, and this board has the authority to appoint people, fill vacancies, and prepare a charge. If we went by past practice, if we knew then what we know now, we might have never put that, I would argue we'd never have put them on the town call. But if we're talking about changing the call of the meeting, I would suggest that we remove items 1, 2, and 3.
and I would like to piggyback on something that John was saying, though. There is clearly continued desire to have this conversation. And so I would hate to remove it completely and have it, and then not have had that opportunity to engage those who did come out in such high numbers last week, to have that conversation, because clearly there are a lot of people who want to have that conversation on this topic continuing. And I know that there's been 6 years worth of conversation.
And many this year.
And many this year, yes. Still in all, my concern is going from having it be on a town meeting agenda to then having it just sort of fade when there's been so much mobilization, so much effort to have this conversation, to have had it last week.
So what we could do is have a public hearing on the items, and that would give people the opportunity. We know people came out and wanted to speak on, I'm assuming the people that were there wanted to speak on these items as well as some of the others. And so it would give people the opportunity to share their input as to why they thought we should or should not appoint people to a committee, fill vacancies on a committee, and present a charge to the committee, because those were the only questions before people on this. It was not to build a new school, it was the questions to the townspeople in this manner were to appoint members, to fill such vacancies, and to prepare a charge, and to appoint a chairperson. So a public hearing might give people the opportunity to speak to their concerns about that.
Yes.
And a referendum might give people a chance to decide or to express whether they felt that this was the way the town should be going or not, in the same way that a town meeting would be giving people a chance to express that. I mean, once having given it over to the townspeople, I can't see pulling it back. And once again, how many people want to vote on this? I'm constantly in this argument. How many people should vote? Well, I think everybody should vote in this particular case, and it's going to be mighty hard if you do it by town meeting. You're going to have all these people there for all these different items. No, you can't pull it back. You can't say, okay, townspeople, you can make the decision, but it's getting a little hard. We'll make it for you.
That's not what we're saying at all, John. I'm saying that we've established a committee, and our job would be to appoint the people. We went again by past practice. I took the exact language from previous school building committee. It is not required to put to the legislative body. It is required of the governing body. This board is the governing body. Do I wish we knew this before we got to this point? Yes. As you can imagine, it's frustrating, but you're proposing changing the entire process. This is a different change to the process as well, and not one, it's one that we have the authority to do, and we have exercised that. It is our role we established a committee, we have to appoint people to it. And we don't need town vote in order to do that. We didn't when we formed other committees. Why is this any different? There has to be meetings before we could authorize, in order to authorize the school, the Board of Education through the superintendent to apply for a grant if we got to that point. We are a long ways from that point. This committee was formed to explore the building of a new pre-K through 8 school. This is not a vote on building a new school.
Right.
And the questions that were before the town were authorizing, which we now know we do not need in this format, to appoint people, to fill vacancies, to prepare a charge, and appoint a chairperson. Not spend money to build a new school, not to build a new school, not to apply for a grant to build a new school. Those are all things that would come as a result of the work of a committee, potential results. We don't know what the outcome would be at this point.
Once again, what are we afraid that the vote won't go our way, therefore we better
Absolutely not. I was in the room ready to have the discussion and vote on Wednesday. I think we were all prepared to do that.
And we are prepared now. I'm just saying that we should vote in a way that gives everybody a chance to, say, vote. And yes, we should still have a public hearing if you wish. And because, let's face it, we had a public hearing the night that we did not vote to have the town meeting. Remember, we batted that back and forth here for quite a long time. And we discussed it, just about every issue there was. And everybody, half the people in town have already read the minutes, if I can believe what everybody tells me.
That was not a public hearing.
It was not an official public hearing, but it certainly served as one. It was more of one than the meeting where we called the town meeting at 8:30 on Wednesday morning.
So,
So the question is, to get down to,
yes.
whatever happened in, a month ago, at a meeting a month ago, at this point is irrelevant. The question is about this particular call. There are a couple things that we need to figure out. December 2nd, is that gonna be our call? Are we agreed upon that? Because then we have to make that call, and then what's gonna appear on the call to meeting? So, hold on. So, I would disagree on converting the most contentious items on this call to meeting to a referendum where nobody gets to have a conversation. I would wholeheartedly disagree on that point. I know that there's been a lot of concern, a lot of questions about the fire department purchase, and I think that is our process, is having a town meeting to discuss those issues. And I think we need to just make that happen. Items 1, 2, and 3, given what we just learned, I think it's fair to have a public hearing. Again, there isn't a referendum question here, because we've already voted to create the committee. It sounds like there's not actually a question to ask the town at this point. However, I think having a public hearing, an opportunity for public conversation is still good, and I would support doing that via a public hearing. Perhaps disconnected, and I think that was something that we heard loud and clear, these first 3 items disconnected from the latter half of the agenda, since it would be such rich conversation. So I suggest that we have a public hearing on the first 3 issues, and then move forward with the town meeting on the latter 5.
Would you suggest we do them in the same meeting?
The public hearing, no.
As to having the meeting on December 2nd, of course, I'm unhappy with that too, because if we are going to do town meeting and there is a process by which people can petition a referendum, and that gives us very little time to do so.
So you want to alter the time and, if I'm hearing correct, put the process off longer so that people have time to petition, as
Yeah.
opposed to moving forward with the process, and if people petition within the time frame we have. I would argue that ideally the date would be prior to Thanksgiving, so that we didn't put the matter off, but because of the use of the facility and the pending holiday, December 2nd was the best date possible. And again, it's the date in which the facility is available.
Which means that if, and I'm assuming here that, well, we're still talking about going my way, but anyway, if we here did not decide to go to referendum, then you could there's still room to petition for a referendum.
Sure.
But the referendum, would have to be petitioned, would have to be turned in 24 hours prior to the town meeting.
Correct.
And it just, that would be 24 hours, business hours,
Yeah.
Well, nobody's gonna be here on Sunday to receive.
or
the petition.
Saturday, or Friday, or Thursday, that's Thanksgiving weekend, which means that cuts our 2 weeks down to a week and a half to get into.
Well, actually, John, these questions have been, so if somebody wanted to petition for the fire department conversation to be a referendum question, this has been on the table for 6 months. So if somebody wanted to petition that not be a town meeting, they've had 6 months to do that.
And I don't think it's our job to decide if some resident is going to pull a petition. Is this so that you can pull a petition? I don't know why we're discussing what someone may or may not do.
Because people probably will pull a petition. No, it will not be me. I'm supposed to not know about it? You know,
I didn't say you weren't supposed to know about it, but that's not how we make our decisions. So, again, I would argue, I tried to find a date sooner. The school has events in that building prior to Thanksgiving. We have to warn for a certain number of days, and now we're looking at 2 weeks. People were in the room and outside of the room, ready to have this discussion last week. So now we're gonna put it off so that those who now don't want to have the conversation about the contentious items can have longer to get a petition. That we're well within their rights to do so. I don't know that that's our concern.
well, first of all, I can't start the petition
Until we call a town meeting.
until the town meeting's been
That's
called.
correct.
And that one petition has been and still is in process.
Then they've got a jump start, so they're in good shape.
The other,
They've got an extra week and a half.
the other items here are waiting on tonight's meeting before they call a petition.
So
Then it's
before-
the town clerk.
So they didn't think they were an issue last week, but now that we couldn't have the meeting, we saw that there were 200 people there, now we need to move them to referendum. That's what I'm hearing, which is interesting, but that's two weeks their own.
That's an argument.
Okay.
So, so the date, so the discussion was a new date, new location. I believe we're in agreement that the only place is Hall School to potentially hold the town meeting with a large enough capacity. We do not have an abundance of large facilities in this town. This room, nor the room upstairs, have a larger capacity than Hall School. So Hall School it is, a new date, I think we disagree on as a whole. And whether or not we actually call a town meeting or, in John's suggestion, a referendum.
I'm not, at this point, like I said, willing to consider the referendum, and I think if we have the date where we have secured a location, I think we move forward with the call, and the only question in my mind is whether we're calling all 8 items, or whether we're pulling the first 3 off for a town meeting versus, or for a public hearing separately versus a town meeting. I'll make a motion that we call to town meeting the items 4 through 8 for December 2nd.
Through 7.
Oh, yes, sorry, 4 through 7. I didn't go to Willington school system. You have to apologize.
All right, I'll second. Discussion?
Although I'm going to vote no, I would at least make one friendly, I hope it would be a friendly amendment, that if you're going to make items 4 through 7, that you change item 7 to item 1, item 4 to item 2, item 5 to item 3, so that you can get at least the quick business out of the way if such a meeting occurs in this
I think
way.
I just heard you say they were all contentious, so I don't know that any of them are quick, except number 7, so.
I am fine with that suggestion.
All right, any other discussion?
Well, do we want to vote on the amendment?
Well, we're not voting on the motion, we're voting on whether or not we set a new date and time. And then the call would have to be read. That's not the call of the meeting. So the motion was
You're gonna have to change the call.
But we'd have to actually read the call. That would have to be a separate item to call the town meeting.
But you have to read the call before you set the date and time.
So you're suggesting that we use December 2nd at Hall School as the date, new date and time for a potential town meeting call, correct?
Well, yes. And I was also, it was a compounded motion to pull 1 through 3 off for for public hearing. So there were two actions in the motion that I made, so we probably have to separate them.
I think some of that can be cleared up by actually calling a town meeting and then reading it, the
Were
call.
you guys in the discussion of
Yes.
this?
Yes. Because the next item would be the call, which would be to read a call, and that would make the meeting.
All right, so then I'll make a motion that the new meeting date be December 2nd at 7 PM at Hall School in the gym.
Just seconded. And you suggest we rearrange the order of the items?
I suggest you rearrange the order of the items. As
It
far
won't be specific in this process, but when we read the call, we can do that. This is not the call of the town meeting. That would have to be a total reading of the town meeting, which is item B,
Which will happen as soon as we
as soon as we
pass
pass this.
this motion to hold the town meeting on December 2nd.
I think the date and time are part of the call.
They will be when we call the town meeting. Talking about, so I guess that in the motion, what, maybe you would accept a friendly amendment of a suggested date and time of a potential town
Sure.
meeting.
Except,
I'm sorry, but friendly amendment
To change the wording to a potential new date and time of a possible town meeting.
Yeah, someone,
I'd just like to raise a point of order about what happened on Wednesday. You convened the meeting, then you postponed the meeting. And that meeting was called for 7 items. If you're postponing a meeting and it only now has 4 items, you are in essence changing a meeting that's in progress.
So we,
All I'm asking is can this become an issue?
so the answer to that is we called the meeting to order and adjourned the meeting. We didn't adjourn to a specific date and time, so it becomes a new call for a new meeting.
But nonetheless, everyone was there for 7 items.
That is correct,
And now you're reducing it to 4 items.
potentially. That is correct.
I'm not certain that that's the correct way to handle this. But far be it for me to make your decision for you. That's up to you, sir.
I was kind of hoping that we would have the town attorney here tonight.
he was in, like, he knows about this.
Yes. Yes. He was there the evening of the meeting. We have had many conversations since then. The latest one about 4:30 this afternoon when we had the conversation about, when he called me to talk to me about the first 3 items on the call.
But so you discussed the first 3 items on the call earlier today with the town attorney?
He answered questions that had been posed in the last week, and that's where the information came from, yes.
Okay.
So the motion is a
December-
change to a potential December 2nd at Hall School town meeting.
And I have again, a objection to December 2nd. As far as I know, we've never had a town meeting on a Monday. Was there anything that prevented it from being held on the December 3rd,
Yes,
December 4th?
yes.
And that was,
There are other functions in that building. And we don't have a set date for a town meeting, so there's nothing preventing us. There's no ordinance in place, policy that prevents us from having it in a different place or prevents us from having it on any day of the week. The day of the week, I would argue, we would not be in the best interest in the Friday. but it's always a possibility, but it would be unstable.
Friday, I would think it would be more likely to have that particular venue not available on Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay, I'm still object to the date due to the fact that it's going to,
I think it's too soon.
I think it's too soon.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
No abstentions, motion carries. So item B is call of the town meeting. So I'm gonna give this a shot. I move Town of Willington notice and warning special town meeting. The electors of the Town of Willington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matters mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet in town meeting at Hall Memorial School Gymnasium, 111 River Road, Willington, at 7 p.m. on Monday, December 2nd, 2019, to vote by a certified paper ballot for the following purpose. Item 1, to see if the townspeople, on the recommendation of the Board of Finance, will appropriate $140,000 from the reserve fund to capital project account 04-4036 for the purpose of purchasing Infinite Vision's general accounting and PR/HR software by Tyler Technologies for the town and schools. Item 2, should the townspeople adopt a PA 490 open space ordinance for the town of Willington. Item 3, to see if the townspeople, on the recommendation of the Board of Finance, will authorize the appropriation of $10,000 from the general fund to provide in supplementary funding to Willington Hill Fire Department. Such funds will be in addition to those funds already allocated in the department's 2019-2020 annual budget and will be used to maintain property at 25 Old Farms Road. Item 4, to see if the townspeople, on the recommendation of the Board of Finance, will authorize the appropriation of $50,000 in supplementary funding to Willington Hill Fire Department. Such funds will be in addition to those funds already allocated in the department's 2019-2020 annual budget and will constitute the town's contribution to the department's repayment of loans received as part of the department's purchase of 25 Old Farms Road.
You have to read the date.
Dated at Willington, it's the 18th day of November 2019.
Second.
Discussion. And if I read those correctly, John, I heard your suggestion of moving the items 4 and 3 to the top of the call. Is that what you, Matt, to move this?
Move item,
That was 1,
Seven,
I made this 2.
Point of information, Erica, could you please go, I'm looking at the original call.
Correct.
Could you please number the way you just, I'm sorry,
Sure.
the way you just finished numbering?
In the original call, item 7 is now item 1.
Okay,
Item 6 is item 2.
6 is 2, okay.
Yes. Item 4 is item 3.
Okay,
And item 5 is item 4.
is item 4. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
that's not exactly how I had called for it, but I just wanted item 7 moved to be item 1. The other 3 were fine the way they are, but now you're moving item 6 to item 2. Okay, but I'm still opposed because I still think we should not be removing 3 items from the call and without giving the people a chance to vote on them.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
So
Now I'm really confused.
in terms of items 1, 2, and 3, can we either put on the agenda or make a motion now to hold a public hearing.
So you can add an item to the agenda, that's the button. If you want to call a public hearing now, or
Can that be part of our conversation now?
think of that. It would need to be a new item.
And, okay, so then I would like to put on the next agenda a conversation about a public hearing regarding the items.
And do you want to do that before we make any appointments to the school building committee?
I would like there to be, yes, I would like there to be the opportunity for public comment since the town has clearly showed up in droves to have this conversation.
And I think that would not be inappropriate. I think that would be an appropriate conversation to have. Again, as I said, there were people in the room ready to have conversation, I think on both sides of the issue. And this would help clear up the question as to what the question was being asked. And the question was simply to appoint people to a committee that was established, filling vacancies, and providing a charge and choosing a chairperson. This was not a vote to build a new school or to spend money on building a new school. You look confused by that. The questions were pretty clear.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying. That's not what's confusing me is, are we now going to discuss having a public hearing
Liza said she'd like to have that on the agenda of our next meeting.
on,
And we can hold a special, if we cannot hold our meeting on the 2nd, now there's a town meeting at 7 PM, we can hold a special meeting of this board if we so choose. We have one right now scheduled for the 2nd and the 16th. I would argue we would need to cancel the meeting on the 16th. I'm sorry, on the 2nd. On the 2nd.
why would we want to hold the public hearing now that we said, okay, folks, you don't get to vote on it, so now we'll hold a public hearing? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Because clearly the townspeople want to talk about this issue, and there's a lot of confusion, and I think
They want to vote
from
on
my
it.
perspective,
Right, but I think there should be conversation about it, John.
I think, right now, I think this is a compromised situation, and I'm trying to come to sort of a middle ground of still being allowed to have the conversation, though, as people clearly wanted to have the conversation regarding these first 3 items. If there's gonna be anybody who would like to push anything to referendum, there's ample time for that to happen as well. So, if people think that there absolutely needs to be a vote on these first 3 issues,
No way.
right now, it's at a public hearing instead of a town meeting.
Right now, it's
So
at
there's no
nothing. Right now, it's officially at nothing.
Officially nothing, but the proposal is to put it at a public hearing instead of town meeting. There's ample time if people need to have a referendum vote or do a petition for referendum.
So we're saying there's still people who want to have the conversation. Your suggestion of moving it to referendum ends the conversation. It takes all of the conversation and the fact sharing out of the conversation.
So we can vote on it, but we can't talk about it, or we can talk about it, but we can't vote on it. Something here does not strike me as being right. The whole idea of going to referendum, I assume there would be a public hearing, or I assume that the town meeting forwarding it to referendum, the issue would be discussed at that town meeting. That's how we do things. That's how, every year we have our public hearing and then our town meeting for the town budget, and then it automatically goes to referendum, but we still have the discussion of it before it goes to referendum.
The budget hearing. And no one's saying I think I heard Liza say she would like a public hearing.
Well, yeah, but we're not going to be voting on it. Am I missing something, or is it?
Yes, I think you are.
Yes, not
I think
every
you're
public
missing
hearing
the point.
requires a vote.
I think you're missing the point about it clearly being something people still want to discuss and providing a forum for those discussions to happen, regardless of whether or not there's a vote that's required at the end of that conversation. Clearly, there's still conversation that needs to happen, so we're providing a forum for that conversation to continue. that's, I mean, it's a fairly simple point. And I'm now 10 minutes past the point where I needed to have left. So, we have made the motions, and there's nothing pending? Okay, so I have to depart.
The next item of business is approval of minutes. There are minutes from our November 4th, 2019 meeting. I move to approve minutes of November 4th.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone present to speak?
Go ahead. Yeah,
Identify yourself.
yeah, Robert Dillon, Lucerne Drive. I would just like to comment on what just transpired. My view is the following. You, as the Board of Selectmen, do have the governing power to do what Erica referred to regarding the school building committee. Elijah's point is also very well taken in that in this town, anything and everything that the Board of Selectmen and anybody else for that matter can do to widen the audience and the participation of the public is a positive for this town. Therefore, from that point on, the Board of Selectmen can go and can act as it sees fit. That's what I have to say.
Yes, sir.
I believe it was
Identify yourself.
Pete Tanaka, Mason Road. I believe it was the last meeting I asked why there was a 5-acre setting on the open space, and I was told it was written into the Plan of Conservation and Development. I've since read the Plan of Conservation and Development and cannot find that reference, and I would like somebody to refer me to a page number so I can find it.
Okay, the information, I don't have that with me. It's in keeping, and we received a memo from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well, so we can get you that information.
Thank you.
Anyone else present to speak?
I'd like to speak to Mr. Tanaka's question.
State your name for the record.
Ralph Toulis, 47 Village Hill Road. I think that the 5 acres was a derivative from the previous Plan of Conservation and Development, not the current.
So it's an expired plan?
Well, it was an updated plan. The new one, the current one, is an updated version of that previous.
Oh,
I
okay.
think in the previous, that's where you'll find the 5 acres.
All right, as a process question then, does one replace the other, or is the next plan an addendum to the one?
I'm not sure I'm qualified to accurately answer that.
Okay.
Anyone
Can we
else
find
present
that
to
out?
speak?
Thank you.
All right, correspondence. You have a very lengthy list of correspondence in your file.
I saw that, and it took me 15 seconds to
Take your
read it.
time. We'll be here all night. We are still looking for an assistant land use agent. We've received, I believe, still just one application. That came in this afternoon, and it closes this Friday, the 22nd. Public Works. Things done at Public Works, roadside mowing is still going on. They've changed the mowing head to the rotary head for heavier brush removal now. They had storm cleanup at Hall School where 7 large trees had fallen on the lower soccer field, and they mowed around the fields. They picked up voting signs around town, emptied trash at River Road Athletic Complex, set up for the public meeting, took down for the town meeting, burnt the brush pile at the transfer station, installed new poles at Hall School for the crosswalk and new traffic sign, swept Eldridge Mills Road, installed new speed limit sign on Village Hill, the Stafford Town line. They've begun to grade dirt roads. Winter road sand is all hauled in, and they've been working on heating issues at the senior center. And the oil tank at the old town hall is being replaced on Thursday. We talked about going from 2 tanks to 1 tank. It's gonna happen on Thursday. All right. We have 2 new appointments. We received a communication from Peter Anderson that the Conservation Commission would like to make the following recommendations for membership, reappointing Peter Anderson and Julia Cardavino as regular members. Both have provided exceptional service to the commission and town. So with that, I'll make a motion to reappoint Peter Anderson as a regular member of the Willington Conservation Commission, effective December 1st, 2019, expiring November 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And I'll move to reappoint Julia Cardavino as a regular member of the Willington Conservation Commission, effective December 1st, 2019, expiring November 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion carries. Item B, resolution. I move the following resolution. Resolve that Erica G. Washinsky may enter into, with, and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Energy Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary and appropriate, and further resolve that Erica G. Washinsky, as the first selectman of the town of Willington, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Willington Board of Selectmen, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. Any discussion? It's a lot of repetitive. So this is for,
What's the Reader's Digest version?
right, executing and delivering agreements and documents.
About?
Emergency services and public protection. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
Can you strike the execute?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, so you have before you the 2020 holiday schedule. So these are all legal holidays that are already posted, with the exception of, so Independence Day falls on a Saturday, therefore we'll celebrate on Friday the 3rd by policy. And then I have suggested Selectmen's Day being celebrated on Thursday, December 24th, 2020.
You,
I moved.
I second.
Cindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I make a motion to accept the 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting schedule as presented. So you can see there 4 meetings in which we would need to meet on Tuesday because the Monday is a legal holiday. Oh, sorry, 4, because we go through January of 2021. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the last meeting agenda is Selectmen budget calendar. Did you get this one? No.
Oh, yeah.
Did you? Okay. So I'm proposing 5:30 meeting on January, on the following days. The Tuesday, there's a holiday on Monday, and the rest are either before a regular meeting or the off meeting schedule. So I make a motion to approve as presented, and we're just, my motion is just the dates. The detail is still TBD.
Okay.
The dates will stay what we
Yeah,
discussed, and these
yeah.
were really from last, I changed the dates, and just took the information from what we did last year. So those, some of those may change, depend on personnel.
So when we discuss, we're gonna have own meetings for our own budget, we're gonna have meetings for the selectmen's budget,
Well, we'll hear from each of the departments, and ours is a department within there, and then we'll have general discussions on everything as a whole, which we tend to do at the end of
Yeah,
each meeting.
Yeah, we as a board of selectmen.
Yes, this is our selectmen's budget calendar, so this is us
Yeah,
meeting.
I understand that. I'm just
And
saying.
yes, so the selectmen, whichever day it falls in, will be when we talk about our section of the budget. Is that
That's
what you're asking?
Sure.
Okay.
Got a few items
Go in
to
there after the meeting.
deal with.
Sure.
Okay,
So
I'll second.
if you have some additions you want to add to it, you can share them before, so that when we go into the meeting, we have all the information. So let's sit down and work out the details before. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, tax refund. I make a motion to refund Cab East LLC a certificate of correction in the amount of $275.66.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right. The last item is good and welfare. We've received, I think last meeting I probably alluded to a resignation on the WISE committee. Karen Warner has now officially resigned from the WISE committee. She's taken a job, her husband took a job out of state, so they moved away from Willington. So I want to once again thank her for her service on that committee, and so now they're open. We still have 2 openings for CIP, 3-year term. And we have new numbers from Troop C for the month of October. They had a total of 467 calls in Willington. And if we're reading this new report correctly, it looks like they've made a total of 40,309 calls overall, year to date. In October of those, there were 7 accidents, 9 criminal investigations, 1 burglary, 1 larceny, and 251 non-reportable matters. And there were 7 total arrests. There were motor vehicle enforcement, there were 184 total traffic stops that included 2 DUIs, 8 misdemeanor summons, 140 infractions, 16 written warnings, and 20 verbal warnings. It's a little bit more detailed than we've had in the past. So it's nice to know how it's broken down. I will also take the opportunity to remind residents to lock their cars. Remove any personal belongings from your cars. We've had another rash of break-ins in multiple areas of Willington. This last incident that happened last week, there was actually a vehicle stolen on top of multiple cars broken into. So lock your vehicles, remove your personal items, and then if you see something, say something.
Can I report one other thing that occurred in the Lucerne, St. Moritz area?
Oh, if it's good, yeah, you can.
Last week sometime, I want to say it's during the middle of the week, rather late at night, I heard 10 gunshots. So I called the state police. And the dispatcher, I said, she asked me, can I have your name? And I said, no, all I'm telling you is that this occurred. And she said, and I was not happy with her response. She said, I'll have somebody come up and do a drive-through through the neighborhood. By the time that would have occurred, everybody would have been either injured, dead, or gone to bed. I was very dissatisfied with that response. I did not say that to her. I was sorely tempted, however, to say that.
What date that was on?
I'm sorry?
What date that was?
It was, I want to say, today's the 18th.
You just tell me what day of the week it was.
I think it was like a Wednesday.
Last week?
10 shots,
Last week then?
yes. My neighbor across the street, one of them can't hear that well, and the other one was watching television. They admitted to me. I said, no, it wasn't 2, as they said, it was 10 shots. Now, if one of my neighbors was having target practice out in the back, is that permissible in the town of Willington, a residential area? I don't think so.
I believe it is. At nighttime, however, I think that's where you.
That was my main concern. At nighttime, during the day, even if it's posted, people sometimes don't really do that. Maybe Ralph heard it as well. Did you hear it, Ralph, down your way?
No.
It's not,
You didn't?
not permissible by Willington.
Oh,
That is for
State
sure.
law,
Right,
state law.
right.
I'm sorry? I didn't.
It's state law, you're not allowed to shoot a gun, I think it's 250 feet from residential
dwelling.
property.
From a,
A residential property.
that's what I thought. I knew there was something in state statutes about that, gratefully it doesn't happen that often. But when this occurs, especially in the climate that we're living in right now in this country, it's kind of startling. It really is startling, especially at night. I mean, particularly if you're living alone, so
Oh, yeah.
just wanted to.
We'll have the conversation, reach out and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I'm not blaming the police. I am somewhat concerned about the response of the dispatcher, however.
Lack of,
Lack of
yes.
whatever.
Yes, sir?
Yes, sir. Did you ever find out about the revenue from the state police? Do we ever get the
Yes.
figures of what we get per month from them? Well,
I
per
gave you,
call?
I reported a figure before to you, and I do not have it in my notes now.
We should get it every month. If you get a report like that, you should have it every
It
month.
doesn't come to us, the revenue comes through the treasurer, so it's not in a report from the state police. The revenue doesn't come in the same way these do, so it's through the treasurer. Is where the revenue, that's how the revenue would come in the state check. So, all right, and we had an election since our last meeting, so I'll take the opportunity to congratulate my fellow board members and all those newly elected. Their terms officially begin tomorrow, and thank all of those whose service ends as of tomorrow, and thank them for their service to Willington. With that, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.